Good morning. We welcome you, your family, and your friends to Unity Spiritual Center, where we honor the universal truth in all religions and respect each individual's right to choose a spiritual path. No matter who you are and where you might be on your path, you are always welcome here. My name is Jane McLean, and I am your podium assistant today. Today we have Rev Deidre Ashmore as our guest speaker and quiet fire for our musical guests. Now let's get centered before we say our 5 principles together. Take a deep breath in, and then let it go. God is good and present in all things. The holiness of God is my own true nature. I am creating my experiences by how I think. My thinking is guided by my daily affirmative prayers and affirmative actions. I follow and am sustained by these values in every way, every day. And our daily word for today is wisdom. I rely upon divine wisdom. When I embark upon something new and challenging, I quiet my mind as I go within and tap into the power of my inherent wisdom. As I reach beyond my intellectual knowledge and my life experiences, I focus on my wisdom to discern the best course of action to take. As new opportunities arise before me, I can use them to lead me to a greater expression of myself. I use my power of wisdom to judge which opportunities will best expand my horizons and help me grow into a fuller expression of myself. With confidence and patience, I relax into the knowledge that my wisdom will lead me to answers, understanding, and clarity about my path forward. And from Proverbs chapter 2, verse 10, for wisdom will come into your heart, and knowledge will be pleasant to your soul. And now, let's welcome Reverend Deidre Ashmore.
Good morning, Bellingham Unity Spiritual Center. So happy to be with you this morning. Thank you, Jane, for your lovely reading of the Daily Word on Wisdom today, and welcome. And I'm delighted once again to be with you today here at Unity, where we honor the many names of God, the many paths, the many faces. And isn't that exciting? I mean, do you know what that means? It means that you can make it work for you. I love that. I love that about our Unity teachings. So today we are going to be looking at the idea, the topic, the essence, the spiritual faculty, one of the 12 powers of that of wisdom, as Jane beautifully introduced today. So let's take a moment before we move into my lesson today and spend some time in meditation. So I invite you to close your eyes if you're comfortable or not, but make yourself comfortable where you are. And let's pause for a moment and turn within. And let's join ourselves, our hearts and mind, in a moment of breathing together. Let's take 3 breaths. 1 in and out. And another breathing in and out. And our third, breathing in and exhaling. Letting ourselves sink into the chair where we may be sitting or where we may be standing, just to let ourselves fully relax. And as I pause and turn within, I feel divine wisdom flowing through me, energizing me, and renewing all areas of my life. And let these words be true for you. It is my guidance system, my spiritual compass. I apply this inner wisdom to the decisions I make, the words I choose, the ideas and beliefs I hold in my mind. I trust in divine guidance and divine wisdom. They join with my goals and desires to illuminate the clearest path forward. I am blessed to have this core of wisdom for decision making. And because of that, my steps are in order and my thoughts rise to new heights. Centered in spirit, my decisions are made with direction and confidence because wisdom underlies them. I am clearly and purposefully guided to that which is mine to do through the power and insight of wisdom. And so I affirm, my inner wisdom guides me to the right decisions, the best steps forward, and the perfect way to bless others with my words and actions. I am in the flow of divine wisdom, calling forth understanding, compassion, and peace. And so it is. Amen. So wisdom, the faculty of wisdom that we call these 12 powers that our co-founder Charles Fillmore established, we call them faculties, or I also like the term my spiritual senses. They're spiritual senses. And so this month, the overarching power for March is that of wisdom. Remember, the theme that Unity Spiritual Center is using this year is staying centered no matter what. And so this month we're focusing on, we're going to stay centered through the power of wisdom, through the spiritual sense of wisdom. Now, Charles Fillmore says this of wisdom: it's the blend of knowledge from the head and the heart. Wisdom, he says, is the highest form of spiritual knowing. It includes divine judgment, discrimination, intuition, and other activities of mind that come under the heading of pure knowing. And wisdom, think about that. Wisdom really is a sense of pure knowing, is it not? And it's different from intelligence. It's something that we all have. And some people even think that some babies are born with wisdom when they look into those beautiful bright eyes, and there's this sense that that baby knows something. There's somebody awake inside that little body. And you've maybe heard it said, that person or that child or that being is a very wise soul. Again, that idea of wisdom. The theologian Marcus Borg studied Scripture. His study of Scripture reveals that wisdom comes from the Greek word called Sophia. And wisdom is indeed a feminine quality. I never really thought about that. Actually, I thought wisdom to me seemed more masculine. But I love it that wisdom, through the Greek word of Sophia, is the feminine quality, that of divine wisdom. You know why this makes me feel good? Because I recognize it's so important for us, each of us, to be able to relate to a God or the Christ. We have to make it relatable. And I was reminded of this last week when I was watching public television, and there was a documentary, a 4-hour documentary, 2-part series on the Black church. And it showed the evolution of the Black church from slavery and into now, and how important it was at some point, right after slavery, for Black people to really relate to their God. And one pastor had such a revelation: my God is Black, my Jesus is Black. Then that's powerful. So as a woman, I'm so glad to have, my God is a divine feminine, the infinite knowing of God through wisdom, Sophia. There are wisdom scriptures in the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, Proverbs, book of Proverbs, and also Ecclesiastes, and the book of Solomon, the wisdom of Solomon. When I read Proverbs chapter 8, I was so taken with the beauty of Sophia and the translation of what actually wisdom is. I'm going to read a portion of it, chapter 8, verses 22 through 36, so you can kind of get the sense of this essence of wisdom. It says that was right there at the very, very beginning when God created and formed the world. It says, "The Eternal created me. It happened when his work was beginning, one of his first acts long ago. Before time, he established me." I want you to listen to these words carefully. Before time, he established me. Before the earth saw its first sunrise. I was born before the deep existed, before any springs poured out their water, before the mountains were placed on their foundations, before the hills rolled across the land. Yes, before all this, I was brought forth. When the earth was yet unformed and the fields were not yet nestled beneath the wind, even before the first dust of the earth, when he created the heavens, I was there. When he drew a circle in the deep, dividing the oceans and the sky, I was there. I was there when he established the sky. I was there when the springs in the deep were fortified. I witnessed him lay down the shore as a boundary and put limits on the water and determine the foundations of the earth. All this time, I was close beside him, a master craftsman. Every day, I was his delighted companion, celebrating every minute of his presence. Elated by the world he was making and all its fine creatures, I was especially pleased with humanity. So now listen to me, my children. Those who live by my ways will find true happiness. Remember, this is wisdom speaking. Pay attention to my guidance. Dare to be wise and don't disregard my teachings. The one who listens to me, who carefully seeks me in everything, every day, and delays action until my way is apparent, that one will find true happiness. The one who listens to me will find true happiness. For when he recognizes and follows me, he finds a peaceful and satisfying life and receives favor from the eternal. But heed my warning, the one who goes against me will only hurt himself. For all who despise me are playing with fire and courting death. It's like, whoa, is that powerful or what? But let's think about it. I bet there's been a time in your life, there certainly has been in mine, when I've not made the best decisions. Let's say I was not wise and I was foolish, and there were consequences for those behaviors. And that's what the passage is referring to here, that we will hurt ourselves. So wisdom is really something to become aware of it and to notice it in yourself, in ourselves. So the name of wisdom is Sophia, and let's look at what wisdom actually is. What are the qualities of wisdom? Well, it's knowing, right? It's knowing. It, I think, is compassion, understanding. There's a steadfastness to wisdom. It's like underlying, and we can count on it. It's always there. And wisdom, I believe, is curious. It's questioning. Wisdom is assured because it's, again, a grounding sense of, I can count on the wisdom within me. You can count on the wisdom within you to serve you. Wisdom allows us to be grounded. I believe wisdom is expansive. Yes? Wisdom is large. Wisdom is generous in its largesse. And wisdom, I believe, is kindness. And if you think about the wise people you've known, especially if you've made a mistake and maybe you feel some shame, wisdom does not shame. Wisdom is an understanding, and wisdom wants to know more. And wisdom provides all sorts of ways for things to be resolved. It's just allowing that wisdom to do its work, to inspire us with ideas. I love what Matthew Fox says about wisdom. He says, the feminine face of God was not altogether wiped out by patriarchy. Isn't that good? That's good news. She returned as wisdom in the Hebrew scriptures that I just referred to, in Proverbs. And she returned as Christ Sophia in the Christian writings. So the experience that wisdom is feminine is ancient and transcultural. So beautiful. Wisdom is celebrated for her cosmic oversight. She comes wrapped in cosmology. She has a universal perspective, a cosmic sense. She is fairer than the sun, greater than every constellation. I just love these words. And the source of all the treasure in the universe. And so all of us have wisdom, whether we're male or female. So beautiful. So there's nothing petty or sectarian about wisdom. The universe and the entire cosmos are her dwelling place. Isn't that just beautiful? So she undergirds and permeates everything. And supreme wisdom, the ultimate wisdom, allows all people to realize the presence and their unity with God. And see, that's the beneficence, the benevolence of wisdom, because it embraces all people, and all people have it. It's whether we have cultivated it or are aware of it is what I think makes the difference. And I believe wisdom can be cultivated, just to simply even ask when we're faced with a decision, like the meditation mentioned, when we're faced with a decision or our thoughts or our words, let wisdom be present when I speak. So remember to bring forth and ask for wisdom. We are told that she, wisdom, is the mother of all good things, who age after age enters into holy souls. She makes all things new, and to love her is to love life. To love wisdom, to love her is to love life. It's a desire to know her brings love to yourself. So wisdom is really important. And what do you think brings wisdom? Well, I think experience does, although I think wisdom, we have wisdom, we don't necessarily need to have experience, but experience reinforces wisdom and knowledge. Just knowledge of an awareness. But knowledge and the intellect are different than wisdom because it's an innate quality. It just is, and it operates without the intellect. Here are some wisdom quotes. The teacher who is indeed wise does not bid you to enter the house of his wisdom, but rather leads you to the threshold of your mind. That's Khalil Gibran. And Benjamin Franklin, you'll know this one. Remember, early to bed, early to rise, makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. Yeah, I heard that as a child many times. And then this one is so beautiful. You can tell whether a man is clever by his answers. You can tell whether a man is wise by his questions. And that's the difference. Yeah, I love that. And this is by Naguib Mahfouz, Mahfouz. Samuel Johnson says, memory is the mother of all wisdom. Memory. And here's a good one. The difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit and not a vegetable. Wisdom is knowing not to include it in a fruit salad. So when I find myself in times of wanting to really explore wisdom, I think of this wonderful story. Many years ago, I was a professional storyteller. Before ministry, I studied with a professional storyteller and even went to the Soviet Union with other storytellers and educators, telling stories of in our culture and learning the stories in the Russian Soviet Union culture. And one of my favorite, I'm going to share with you now, is a story called Clever or Wise Manka. Her name is Manka, M-A-N-K-A. So the story is, once upon a time, there was a farmer who happened to be very astute, but he was also known as a greedy man. So much so, he would take advantage of his neighbors, and he was sometimes very unfair. Now, one day, one of his neighbors, a lowly shepherd farmer, agreed to do some work of service for this, the greedy farmer, the wealthy farmer, and in return, his payment would be a calf. When the work was completed, the shepherd went to collect his calf, and the farmer refused. This caused the shepherd much consternation, causing him to take the matter before the local judge in the village. Now, the local judge was a young man, and he was new in his position, and he wasn't really quite sure maybe how to handle this. And so he weighed in, he listened, but then he said, I have a riddle for you. Would you agree that the person that comes up with the best answer to these riddles will be the one who is awarded the calf? Well, what are they going to say? The judge is recommending it. So he said, all right, I want you to go back home, and then tomorrow come back at this hour that we are here now, and you must tell me what the swiftest thing in the world is, what the sweetest thing in the world is, and what the richest thing in the world is. Oh man, the farmer went back, and he was just distraught. He was kind of pacing around, and his wife said, husband, what is it that is troubling you? Why? What is agitating you so much? He said, oh, that foolish judge, that young judge. He, instead of giving me the calf, which is mine, he is going to decide our case between me and the shepherd to come up with the answer to a silly riddle. And his wife said, well, tell me what it is. He said, I need to know what the swiftest thing in the world is, what the sweetest thing in the world is, and what the richest thing in the world is. She looked at him, she said, husband, don't worry, I know what the answers are. He looked at her and he said, you do? She said, yes, we'll be able to keep the calf. We know the swiftest thing in the world is our gray mare. No one ever passes us on the road. And the sweetest thing is our honey. Have you ever tasted anything more sweet than our wonderful honey? And then the richest thing in the world is our chest of gold and coins that we've saved for over 40 years. The farmer said, oh, my wife, you are so wise. Of course we'll be able to keep the calf. Now, with the shepherd, he went back to his house and he had this distressed look on his face. And he happened to have this wise daughter named Manka. And she noticed, she said, Father, tell me, what is troubling you? Oh, dear Manka, this judge, he's asked us to come up with the answer to this riddle. And I don't know. I don't know what to do. She said, tell me what is the riddle? And so he mentioned, I need to know the swiftest thing in the world, the sweetest thing in the world. I need to know the richest thing in the world. She said, Manka said, Father, there, go to sleep and do not worry. And in the morning, I will have your answers for you. And so the two men met in the afternoon at the appointed time. And the first farmer, the greedy farmer, walked in with puffed up chest, fairly confident, knowing that he would get to keep his calf. And he told the judge, Judge, my mare is the fastest thing in the world. Nobody ever, swiftest thing. No one ever passes us on the road. And my honey from my great bees is the sweetest thing in the world. And then the richest thing in the world is our chest of gold coins. My chest that I've saved over these years. The judge thought, that sounds very good. And then he turned to the shepherd and said, Shepherd, and what, tell me, are your answers? And the shepherd said, well, sir, the swiftest thing in the world is thought. For thought can travel any greater distance in the twinkling of an eye. And the sweetest thing in the world, nothing is sweeter than a good night's sleep. For when one is tired or sad, what is more healing and refreshing than a good night's sleep? And then what is the richest thing in the world? The richest thing in the world is the earth from all riches that spring forth. Oh, very good. The judge was excited and he said, Shepherd, you are awarded the calf. And the farmer stormed out of the room, and just when the shepherd turned to leave, the judge caught him by the arm and said, Kind sir, tell me, did you think of those answers yourself? And the shepherd said, well, he didn't really want to tell him, but the judge, being a persistent man, and questioning him, finally got out of him that it was the shepherd's daughter, his daughter Manka, who helped him with the answers. Said the judge, I think I'd like to meet your daughter. She sounds like a very wise woman. And then he had his servant bring him 10 eggs, and he gave the 10 eggs to the shepherd, and he said, Tell your daughter to return these eggs to me in the morning with 10 chicks. The eggs hatched and the 10 chicks. The shepherd said, okay. And so he carefully took the eggs back to his daughter, and he told Manka what the judge said. She laughed and she said, Father, You turn around and go right back to him right now, and you tell him, and she gave him a handful of millet. She put that in his hands, and she said, take the millet back to him and tell him that when he plants and grows and harvests the millet, I will return the 10 chicks to feed upon his grain tomorrow. And so the shepherd did. He told the judge, and he started laughing. He said, "Oh my, I really must meet this daughter of yours, for if she is as beautiful as she is wise, I believe I will like to marry her." And so again, he said, so I want you to bring her to me tomorrow. Tell her she must come at neither day or night. She must come either walking or riding, and she must be dressed or undressed. Now the riddle is getting very, very detailed. So again, the shepherd goes home, tells Manka, and again she laughs. And then she awoke just at dawn, when the night has not left, but the daylight has not arrived. And then she dressed herself in a fishnet. And then had a goat. She put one leg over the back of the goat and then kept her other foot on the ground. Now I ask you, was she dressed or undressed? No, she wasn't really dressed, because a fishing net is not clothes. But was she undressed? No, she had this fishing net around her body. And was she walking or riding? Not really. She had one leg over a goat, moving her along, but on the other hand, her other left foot was on the ground. So the appointed time came, and she arrived right at daybreak, where the darkness had not left and daylight had not arrived. And there she called out to the judge and said, "I have come, Your Honor. Here I am." And when he saw her, with the fishnet on the goat, again he laughed, and he was smitten with her, and he proposed on the spot, and shortly thereafter they were married. And once they were married, the judge said to her, "Manka, I have one condition that I request of you. It is this: you must promise never ever to interfere in any of my cases. And here's what will happen if you do. I will send you back home to your father's house immediately. Is that understood?" And she agreed. And so they began their married life. She was very happy. They were happy together. She busied herself with housework and crafts and busying up, keeping her home lovely and cooking. And all things were going well, except one day a case was brought before the judge, and here's what happened. A farmer had his mare in the market, and a loud noise frightened the mare under a wagon, and thereby it gave birth to a colt. Now the man who owned the wagon was so happy to see the colt under his wagon, and he declared that the colt was his. The farmer whose horse the mare who's just given birth to the colt was outraged. That was his colt. And so here again, the case is sent before the judge. Well, the day that the judge was making sentencing, he was a bit preoccupied and a bit absent-minded, and he awarded the colt to the man who owned the wagon. He said, you can keep the colt. Well, the farmer was so upset, and he was leaving the judge's house when should be outside but Manka. And he remembered, I've heard the stories that the judge has a wise wife. And so he went to her and he said, "I'm just so surprised. I'm wondering if you might be able to help me. Here's what happened. When Manka heard the story, she was ashamed of her husband's foolish decision. And without thinking, she said, all right, here's what you must do. You come back tomorrow and take a fishing net and put it in the middle of a dusty road. Just lie it down there. The judge will see you, and he will come and ask you what you are doing. And you say, fishing. And then he will immediately see the errors of his way. He will say, how do you expect to catch fish in the middle of a dusty road? And you say, it's as easy to catch fish in the middle of a dusty road as it is for a wagon to give birth to a colt. So that's what the man did the next day, and he set out the net in the middle of the dusty road, and the judge happened to get up and was looking out his window, and he saw the man out with the net in the road. And so he walked out and said, my good fellow, what are you doing? Why is this fishing net in the middle of the road? And the farmer said, well, I'm fishing. He said, are you serious? That's preposterous. You can't catch fish you expect to catch fish in the middle of a dusty road? He said, well, sir, it's as easy for me to catch fish in the middle of a dusty road as it is for a wagon to give birth to a colt. Oh, my goodness, it hit the judge like a ton of bricks, and he said, oh, my good man, I apologize. Of course you are right. I will make the situation right and have the colt returned to you. I'm so embarrassed. I apologize. But then he looked at the farmer and said, oh, and that's the other thing. I forgot one thing. Manka told the man, the farmer, you must not tell my husband. You have to promise me you will not tell my husband that I put you up to this. And he promised. But remember, the judge is a judge, and he's very persuasive. And so he started to walk away, and then he turned to the man and looked at him, and he said, did you think this up yourself? And the man kind of stammered and was, well, Your Honor, yeah. And so he pressed him more, put more pressure on, and he said, tell me, who put you up to this? Who told you? Who suggested this to you? I don't believe you came up with this. And so the man finally gave in, and he said, yes, Manka had given him the answers. Oh, was the judge upset and angry. He stormed into the house and said, Manka, have you forgotten what our agreement was, what you promised me? And here you've gone and you've interfered in a case, and you know what was going to happen, what I must do. Back you must go to your father's house immediately. But Manka said, oh, dear husband, let's have a meal before I go. And let's part as friends as we've always been. And the husband said, well, the judge said, well, okay, and I suppose you could take with you the thing you like best from my house. And she said, that'll be fine. He said, I don't want someone to think that I'm treating you shabbily, so all right, I'll agree to a meal with you, a final last meal. So Manka prepared his favorite foods. She knew what he loved, and she got one of their choice fine bottles of wine. And so they ate their meal together, and the judge was so happy with his favorite food that he ate, and the more he ate, the more he drank. And the more he drank, the drowsier and sleepier he became. So much so that he finally fell asleep right at the table, right in his chair. At that moment, Manka had her help very gently lift him up, take him outside, and put him in the waiting wagon, and took him back to her father's house with her. In the morning, when the judge awoke, he was so surprised. At first, he didn't know where he was, and then there was Manka, and he realized he was in her father's home. And he said, Manka, where am I? What's going on? What's going on? She said, calm down, sir. Calm down, dear husband. He said, I don't understand. And she said, well, dear husband, your words were, you told me that I could take with me the one thing I like best from your house, and I like you best, so I've brought you with me. He threw back his head and laughed, and he said, oh, my dear Manka, you are far, far too wise of a woman for me. Come, let's return home together. And so they lived happily many, many years, and the judge, in his wisdom, if ever he had an unusual, difficult case come before him, he would stop and he'd say, I think we'd better consult my wife on this, for you know, she is a very, very wise woman. Wisdom, my friends. We all have it, and so we want to use it wisely. And I leave you with this. When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me. There will be an answer, let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. Speaking words of wisdom, let it be. Namaste, my friends, and God bless.
Thank you, Reverend Deidre, for being with us today. I certainly appreciate your words of wisdom. We've now reached the part of our service where we get to give, to practice the abundance that we are. There are 2 ways that you can give. You will find that information at the end of the service. We are always grateful for your generous gift. As you consider your gift, affirm, I give freely and joyfully, for God is my source and I have abundance in all areas of my life. And please say with me our offertory blessing. Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And let's welcome our musical guests, Quiet Fire.
Born before the wind, also younger than the sun. Ere the bonny boat was won, as we sailed into the mystic. Hark now, hear the sailors cry. Smell the sea and feel the sky. Let your soul and spirit fly into the mystic. And when that foghorn blows, I will be coming home. And when that foghorn blows, I want to hear it. I don't want to fear it. And I just want to rock your gypsy soul, just like back in the days of old. And together we will fall into the mystic. it. I don't want to fear it. And I just want to rock your gypsy soul, just like back in the days of old. And together we will fall into the mystic.
Thank you so much, Quiet Fire. That was so beautiful. We are at the end of our service, and let's say our prayer of protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Thank you for being with us today, and have a blessed week.